Numbere is an ancient and highly populated town on an island far out in the Atlantic Ocean. It comprises of two sections, Basambiri and Obolomabiri, which are linked together by a bridge over a small river, Calabari Toro, Sombrero River, and San Bartolome in the Atlantic Ocean, and are usually very rough. In the olden days, the journey from Port Harcourt to Numbere, the journey now takes 7 hours by fast boats and 18 hours by the local big boats. Those big local boats were built, only took 18, are improving and traveling from Yeneguadis, which serve as fishing ports or settlements for local fishermen. Those islands looked so wretched and so way out of civilization that it was difficult to believe that they were inhabited by human beings. But there were people there living in abject poverty, want and neglect, without the basic amenities of life, such as potable drinking water, electricity, schools, or health centers. After a successful campaign in Dompogo, set out for Numbere on the 28th of March, but they had to stay back in Port Harcourt, which is in some areas of the country that season. On the morning of Friday, 7th April 19 board, 11 were full-time workers to 1 or 2 weeks. Out on the blood of those brave youths who took the gun as soon as they arrived. But since boats were not easily available, they had to stay back. Daily, the camp diminished as those who could not withstand it escaped, in quotes, as soon as it was good as well, because something worse than mosquito bites awaited them in the no distant future, which was, I liken it. It was like Paul's experiences in the hands of the Thessalonians, Ephesians, and the Jews in Jerusalem, all rolled into one. It was definitely not an experience for the faint-hearted. For want of description, I have referred to Numbere as a modern Ephesus. Also, as they had electricity and many other idols. Their chief priest was one Owolo. It was a highly promiscuous society. The extent to which immorality had pervaded the lives of the people was reflected in every aspect of their life. The many pregnant teenagers dotting the waterfront. During that cleansing, all the women in the village are more so. The scene was always a terrible display of fetishness, alcoholism, and lewdness. Right? The crusaders were ever not moved. They continued preaching the word of life. The Lord was with them and did mighty miracles to enemies of the gospel the more, and has started plotting against the gospel to continue with the campaigns while he traveled to one of the university campuses for a campus program. Soon after Numbere left, the enemy decided to strike in a big way. For a few days running, there were attempts by the chief priests of the town together with the prostitutes and ruffians to disrupt the crusade and beat up their preachers. Undaunted, the team continued to preach the gospel. On Saturday, being 15th day of April, the devil broke loose on the crusade ground. Hoodlums, young evangelist Fubara Ibama was ministering, but towards the end of his message, the people started hurling stones, bottles, Berewuku shells, and other missiles at the team. He did not stop the message and challenging the powers of darkness in that land. God gave them supernatural protection. The missiles stopped short of the platform. When the people saw this, Justice Alagwa is our man. There will be no case. Fornication must continue. Retired Chief Judge, now late, was delusion it was for them to believe that the learned, if they committed murder, because that was his own town. In the midst of all this melee, a young convert of the several injuries, packed their instruments and ran to take shelter in a nearby motel. The people ran after them, still shouting and hooting at them and throwing missiles at them. They surrounded the motel, hurling stones at the roof, shouting and screaming at the top of their voices. Incredible. The whole town was in a risk. Beginning from the smaller and the back exit, he went out the first time, passed through their midst as fast as he could, and was able to take out quite a sizable number of the instruments. It was an act of faith, and God honored their faith. God gave him a cloud of covering, and the people did not recognize or identify him for who he was. You can imagine what would have happened if they did. Going to die that night, at least there should be instruments for those who would take over from them after they were gone. Those young men and women were certainly a special breed. Heroes and heroines of the faith, always ready to be martyred for the sake of the gospel. And they loved not their lives unto death, as Revelations 12:11 said. That was how committed to prosperity and comfort gospel. At a time that people started calling on the landlady to release the crusaders for them to kill them. They threatened to kill her if she did not throw them out. She became afraid and wanted to turn them over to the crowd, as her life was also in danger. There was nothing they could do. They were completely enclosed by the bloodthirsty mob, and there seemed to be no way of escape. But God provided a way for them, for he will always make a way where there seems to be no way. There was a Christian brother in the town, one William Barimura, a native who, though not a great evangelism member, had shown much solidarity with them as an act of true Christian spirit. God gave the team the wisdom to send him to go and inform the police of the situation. Being a native, he could easily slip in and out without attracting the attention of the mob. He quickly ran down to the police station. The police did not delay, they went with him. The mob was about breaking into the motel when the police arrived for the rescue. A number of the people disappeared from the scene as soon as they sighted the policemen. That's where they were camping. The villagers booked 2 hours. In all these happenings, as they served to suffer for the gospel, it was not until to Port Harcourt to go and wait for Apostle Numbere. All their experiences with him, Apostle Numbere, there was Evangelist Edward and Sound out there in faraway Numbere. He was not a man. It was night. He decided to travel to Numbere at once. He was buried in Port Harcourt while his men were after all. But first, he rushed down with Evangelist Edward to the My One Fellowship Center, where the brethren were having fellowship. On hearing Edward's story with an outboard engine, it was ebb tide and the boat was aground. They pulled it out into the water and set out for Numbere. A brother from Numbere volunteered to accompany them on the long, arduous night journey on the roof of the boat and using his torchlight to light up the way for the boat driver. He was deeply troubled and extremely anxious as he was uncertain as to whether his people, the gospel team, were alive or dead. Numbere is very good at navigation, an asset which could be attributed to his cadet training in Government College Umuahia. This special capability helped him that the Apostle Numbere had passed that way only once before for an anxious Numbere. After what seemed an eternity to him, they finally arrived at Numbere the next morning by 5:40. Running towards the camp, he started calling out to them, "Fubara, Nelson, are you alive?" On and on he ran, calling their names and asking whether they were alive and well. They were still, smoke was so heavy that as they were thus woken out of their sleep, some of them, thinking it was the mob again, shouted, "Jesus!" But when they opened the door, behold, it was their beloved leader, Apostle Numbere, dressed in a winter coat. As he set eyes on them, he hugged every one of them, looking them over and feeling their faces, their hands and legs for any to be plucked out. After they offered prayers of thanks to God for their protection and deliverance, those on hearing of their intended departure came to the camp. After exhorting them, any of them having any breakfast, they got a boat that took them to Akukama, their next port, out of their houses and followed them up to the water. They had dared to preach the gospel, which was against their life.